Okay, guys, so Zayn recently came out in his memoir talking about how he has an eating disorder, which we normally don't see a lot of men coming out about this. It's kind of a taboo. Normally we see women and girls having the eating disorders, but Zayn is coming out and he said, I didn't feel like I had control over anything else in my life, but food was something I could control, so I did. And the CEO from National Eating Disorder Association, she's actually applauding him for coming out and saying that we need more celebrities or men figures to come out because they're actually ashamed of coming out because it's more of a woman thing. So do you guys think that it's good that Zayn is talking about this? And do you think it's weird that men feel weird about coming out about an eating disorder?
I think it's confusing because when you think eating disorder, like, and I definitely didn't, Rylan and I
We were
literally
talking about
Googled the definition of eating disorder, and it is also like it's basically anything like with weird eating habits. It doesn't have to be anorexia or bulimia, which is automatically what you think.
We were thinking like, oh, if it's eating, it has
like,
to do with
more like
body
depression
image.
or like exactly.
Whereas like he said his was about control, which would be more of a mental disease, is what we thought. But then we Googled the definition, and it was anything having to do with eating habits. So he is categorized still as having an eating disorder.
I think it's also confusing because when it's like men don't speak out about it, I think also it's men don't speak out about like if they did have body image issues. He flat out says, I didn't have any issues with how I looked. It was control. Sometimes I wouldn't eat for like a few days just because.
Stress,
anxiety,
I guess I get where he's coming from in saying that I really do believe when you're in a boy band that's as popular as One Direction, the schedule is insane. I feel like you don't get a say on the music you're making. You don't get a say on anything. And at that point, you kind of become a robot manufactured by somebody else. Yeah, you're literally a puppet. So I do feel like he was being honest about thinking the only thing in his life that he could control was what he was putting into his body. So I guess I can understand what he's saying, but I can't really. I've never dealt with that, so I don't get it necessarily.
MJ said the same thing. Like back in the day when he was in the Jackson, like when they got older, he said that he didn't have like an eating disorder because he was concerned about how he looked, but just because that was the only thing that he felt like he could control.
Right.
So he would.
I guess for me, I just don't. And obviously I'm wrong because the definition it flat out says that. But when I think eating disorder, I would categorize his more as like anxiety, depression, which he also has come out that he has anxiety and stuff.
And he talks about that in the book as well.
That would affect your wanting to eat and stuff also. So I wonder, he doesn't go into that much detail, at least in what I've read, of like, he wasn't eating because he could control whether he was, or he wasn't eating because he didn't want to because he didn't have an appetite. Like,
yeah, let me read you a couple of things that he said also. I had lost so much weight, I had become ill. The workload and the pace of life on the road, put together with the pressures and strains of everything going on within the band, had badly affected my eating habits. So I think what you were saying, Rylan, you're right. Like, there's so much going on in the band that he just felt like he couldn't have his hands in anything. So this is the one thing that he had control over.
Yeah, he said he would go up to 2 to 3 days without eating at all, which is crazy when you're traveling and you're performing and you're just doing what he's doing.
But I totally get that though. When you're traveling a lot, you're like, it messes with your stomach.
Yeah, and if you deal with like depression and anxiety on top of that, I feel like you either go one way or the other with food, where you don't eat if something's wrong, or you eat a lot. So maybe how he coped was not eating at all, but he said he didn't realize how severe it was until later on, like now, coming out of it. I think once you come past something. And didn't he say,
like, seeing pictures and stuff and how unhealthy, because he did look very unhealthy,
yeah,
and that's why everyone thought he was on drugs.
Yeah.
But
well, here's the thing. I feel this has something to say about our industry, because not only him, but Selena Gomez, Ellie Goulding, they're all coming out saying that they're having anxiety and all these issues. And now Kendall Jenner is actually coming out too, saying that she's having really bad anxiety and that she can't sleep. And everybody else is like, oh, you're fine, you're fine. And we saw in a clip of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, she's telling her mom, like, no, Mom, I'm not fine. There's something wrong with me.
Right.
And it is due to all the pressures of her working and everything. So where is the balance of being in the industry and not being overwhelmed to the point where you have to go to rehab?
I mean, rehab is a level that some people take it to and some don't, but honestly, I feel like there isn't much of a balance. I personally have anxiety that I struggle from, and I'm like, if I have it, what are people that are having to travel and like have so many expectations linked to
Or-
everything
right.
they do.
The
that-
magnitude of a performer where you potentially have 55,000 people you have to perform for every night.
Exactly.
I can't imagine having a headache or a stomach ache or anxiety
Completely,
or
and then you're like,
depression
you can't.
and being
And it's
like,
not even
I
just-
have to go out tonight because these people worked hard and took off work to see me
Well,
perform.
and on top of that, then it's like, okay, well then he does go out and perform maybe and he has a headache, then what if that affects his performance?
What if the performance
so
is
then
bad?
everyone then is mad at him anyway,
Yeah.
regardless of what he does. It's just
How could you not be stressed out? I get it.
All the time.
Like,
Yeah.
I really like Shawn Mendes did this candid interview with somebody. I know you're like, why are you bringing Shawn Mendes into this? But he did this interview where he was like, we live in such a day and age where every move really matters, because he goes, if I'm at a performance and I do something horribly wrong, that's not just documented for 55,000 people, it's documented for the entire world, because
Yeah.
500 people caught that on camera and then every news outlet picks that up. So the social media, I think, has really added on people's mental strength.
And that's why I think us as consumers can't put so much pressure or backlash on celebrities, like when they say they are going to rehab or if they cancel a show. It's like we just
Like
have to
Kanye
understand.
the other night.
But yeah,
Well, that's-
Kanye had to cancel a show.
It's because people don't look at them as humans anymore. You look at them as like, no, you're supposed to perform for me. You're my favorite artist. Why
Right.
aren't you doing
Well,
what I want you to do?
Also,
right?
I think the anger comes out of excitement because
Oh,
you
completely.
paid so much money to see this person and you took off work to see this person. All of your friends are going with you, and then
But
that
you don't
person
think
cancels.
about the fact that they have friends. They have like their
Yeah.
own things
Yeah.
going on. What if they had a really bad day?
You're
What
thinking
if
about the
they,
show.
Like, they can't call in sick.
It's
Right.
true.
It's not a monkey.
I'm kind of curious though. You said that you kind of relate anxiety. What do you mean when you say that?
I started getting anxiety like right after college, and I think it was very much like the quarter life crisis. Like, oh my God,
Right.
what am I gonna do
Yeah.
now? And it was
Uh-huh.
like going from being with all these friends all the time and partying, and then being in a
Alone.
work environment and being
Right.
alone and living at home, and it was
Yeah.
just like, and it's honestly really hard to describe that you just like get very overwhelmed by the littlest things that shouldn't, and that you're very aware that it shouldn't be overwhelming you,
Right.
and you shouldn't be getting anxious.
But then you probably beat yourself up too,
And
because you're like, why am I
and you're
feeling
just
like
having
this
this
about
internal
this?
struggle. My biggest, and then for me, it was physically manifesting in palm sweating. Like it used to be
yeah.
such a problem that I'd be like on my computer and I'd like get an email, and literally next thing I know, my palms
Oh,
are sweating so much I
no.
can't even. I'm like wiping on my pants. My mom jokingly suggested I wear gloves.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
God!
not helping.
But
Oh,
people don't realize how you
no.
can you can really
It's
affect you. I had a
intense.
friend that she woke up in the middle of the night and she could not breathe,
Wow.
just from being stressed out and having anxiety.
I
Ooh.
very much woken up lots of times where I'm like I wake up in a panic.
I have
Yeah.
advice. All y'all need to find yoga.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Ron's like, I am zen.
Oh man.
I am zen.
But also taking it back to the eating disorder thing, I feel like a lot of people rule out that sometimes you can overeat and that's an eating disorder as well.
Totally.
It's not just
Totally.
like stop eating. So people have it on both ends.
Well, I agree with the CEO. Kudos to Zayn for just speaking out, even though it seems like it would be a hard thing to do because
Yeah.
so many people do associate it with women.
Totally.
So let us know what you guys think about Zayn speaking out, and also what do you guys think about Kendall too. I just hope that they're okay and that they feel better. So send them love in the comments below.
Whoop, whoop. And then you guys can click over to the left to learn how to bail on a horrible Tinder date.
Or you can click to the right to hear all about Eugenia Cooney and is she banned from YouTube?